Mesechta Shavous, Daf Zayin Amud Aleph, 10 lines on the top, starting with the word Ashkechan. It's the second word from the beginning of the line. Yesterday, we looked for a mucker. That how do we know that the pasuk of Karmel V'Yored is talking about Tumah when he was Tameh and he entered into the Mikdash, or when he was Tameh and he ate kosher? Of course, B'Shegis. So you might have concluded from where do we learn it out? Because the pasuk doesn't explicitly state what the sin was. It could have been he ate Trumah. Anyway, you might have avoided Trumah because we learned out from Amiyut Ba and not Trumah. And from where do we learn out that if he was Tameh and he ate Kodesh, that you're going to be Chayv HaKab Ma'ila B'Yedid? From this, that it says in the pasuk, B'Negeya to Oy Nefesh, I'll say the pasuk, Oy Nefesh Asher Tikeh B'Chol Davar Tameh. It says, Oy benivlas chayet meya, oy benivlas behemet meya. There was no reason for to say benivlas behemet meya. So here, Rabbi made the Gzeira Shavah from behemet meya that's written by somebody who eats a shlomim bituma to behemet meya that says by benegei takav meila b'yedid. So he made that Gzeira Shavah. That's what he means. This is what the Rabbi meant about Rabbi. He dug deep to find this Gzeira Shavah. It seems like that this Gzeira Shavah, nobody understood. Everybody, it was a good Gzeira Shavah has to be, so but Gzeira Shavah has to be a Messiah also. But nobody understood what that Gzeira Shavah was. Rabbi was the one that figured out how to make that Gzeira Shavah. That's why that's why Rava called upon him. He's a person that has gate the eye and deep into the water. So we have already a marker for somebody who's tamei and eats kodesh, that he has to bring a cup ma'ila b'yedid from the Gzeira Shavah. From this, that it says by beat each one behema tmeya, side by cup ma'ila b'yedid and side by shlomin if a person who was tamei ate the shlomin which is kosher. You found that somebody who's tamei and eats kodesh, he's going to be chayiv akab ma'ila b'yedid. Tumas migdash b'nalon. How do we know that if he was tamei and he entered into the base of migdash, that there too he's going to be chayiv akab ma'ila b'yedid? And when the Gemara Hamakra, it says when they get to Yeledes, the halacha is by Yeledes, as they state in Chumash, Azacha, 7 days she's tamei, and then she has 33 days. That it's not Yemei Tahara, that she can live with her husband, but she cannot eat kodesh, whatever. By a girl, it's 14 and 66. Okay, so what does it say over there? It says both. It says every kodesh you should not touch, and al hamikdash you should not enter. Adam lois Yemei Tahara till the days of Tahara. Those 33 days are done, and she's tayvel, and there's out of Hashemesh, then she could eat kodesh or enter into the Beis Hamikdash. Says Gemara Iskish, you compare in that same pasuk, you make a hekesh. Mikdash le kodesh. It says both in the same pasuk. It says b'chol kodesh, and it says v'la mikdash le savay. So b'chol kodesh le siga, and it says v'la mikdash le savay. So you compare the mikdash to the kodesh, and just like kodesh, we already learned out that if you eat kodesh while you're tamei, you bring a cup ma'ila b'yedid. So too, somebody who's tamei and he enters into the Beis Hamikdash while tamei, he's going to be chayiv a cup ma'ila b'yedid if he doesn't b'shegeg. This is the hekesh. Says Gemara Yachi. If so, trumanami. If you're learning the hekesh from the word b'chol kodesh, who says it could be going on truma? Domamar, the Tana says in Yavamis and Makis, we had it just recently. Yudal Hamad base that says b'chol. When it says in the pasuk b'chol kodesh leisiga, we learn now from the word b'chol. It says b'chol. L'Rabbi says truma. That's somebody who eats truma while he's tamei. So you can say truma is compared to kodesh. Who says it's mikdash? Maybe he's talking about truma. Says the Gemara, you can't say Tumah. We just learned previously that the word ba comes to exclude that a tummy that eats Tumah does not bring a cup ma'ila b'yedid. Says the Gemara, how do you know ba comes to exclude Truma? Maybe it comes to exclude somebody who's tummy and eats the base of Mikdash, that he doesn't bring a cup ma'ila b'yedid. Says the Gemara, Mistabra Mikdash loy b'ma'atinon. it's reasonable to say Mikdash wasn't the one that was excluded. Why? Shekain be'kadosh k'meisa. If you're making a hekesh to kodesh to the same punishment. If somebody who's tummy and eats kodesh, b'meizit, he gets kodesh. So that's a mikdash. Somebody who's tummy and goes into the base of mikdash, chayiv kodesh. Those two you can compare. Somebody who eats truma b'meizit, he's not chayiv kodesh. He's chayiv misa b'dei shemayim. Misa b'dei shemayim. So it's not similar. So what a but just the opposite. Truma lo'imatinon. I'll tell you, truma is not the one that's excluded. Only the mikdash is. Shekain achila kamaisa, because the performance of the sin is done through the same way. What was the sin by kodesh? That while he was tummy, he ate. So the same thing by Truma. What was the sin, the performance of the sin? He ate Truma while it was tummy. So that's more of a comparison. It says, you're right. I'll bring you a different ayah. Where do we know the chiyuv of when somebody's tummy enters the base of mikdash? From here. Sholish krisus v'shlamim lama. What does it have to say 3 times the lashon krisus by the coming of shlamim? In Pashas Emoy, there's a pasuk. It says Kol ish asher yikam mikol zarachem el hakadoshim, and there it's referring to a shlamim, and there it says v'nichrasa adav shahi, and then you have another 2 times in Pashas Tzav where he talks about the Kabim Shlamim and you get Krisus. The 2 psukim are that's 1 in Tzav, and next to that pasuk, the next pasuk, it says and it says so you have 1 pasuk in Tzav and 2 psukim in, 1 pasuk in Pashas Emei and 2 psukim in Tzav, where it talks about Kadis. Every time it says Kadis, why do you need 3 times that it say Kadis by somebody who eats a cup of shlamim while he's tummy? And the Gemara, achas leklal. 1 is a klal, because in the pasuk in Pashas Emei, it doesn't say shlamim, it says kadoshim, which includes everything, also shlamim. The achas, and then when you come into Tzav, that pasuk, leprat, it says befedish shlamim. It says shlamim. It has to be shlamim. The achas, so the achas lituma haksub v'atei stam v'eni yadei mahi. So first, let's understand it's a klal uprat. So here he's not learning as a klal uprat. Here he learns it as this. If you look in, here I can take this. Or here you look in the Shleish Eshe that Rabbi Shmuel says. So you'll see you have 4 klal uprat. Klal uprat ein lechab ela masha befrat. That's by klal uprat. Well, we're learning it as a kol davar shahayu b'chlal, which was b'chlal. Shlamim was in the klal because it says kadoshim. It's a klal. V'yotzim in klal, and then they singled out shlamim, which already was included in kachim. That everything that's similar to a shlamim is going to be chayv the same way as a shlamim. So why don't we consider it as a klal uprat? Why do we say this one is considered as kol davar shahayu b'chlal? Why do you do this? Is what Rashi is, this kasha. So Rashi says when the klal and the prat are muruchakim, like over here, the far apart. Here the klal was written in Pashas Emei, and the prat was in Tzav. So if it's far apart, then we use it as kol davar shahayu b'chlal v'yotzim min haklal le'il lamen el atzmai el lamen al haklal kol yotzim. That's how we learn it. Then you have the third one. Achas letuma haksub v'atei stam. It's written, the third kares is, we don't know what it says. It talks about the Pasha of Eilu Yerit, a Tumah, but we don't know which Tumah. He doesn't specify what was the sin of Tumah that warranted that he should have to bring a carbon Eilu Yerit. Have you I'm going to say, Tumah is Kaidish. The simple shot was that he was Tameh, and he ate Kachim, he ate Shlamim. Like the topic is talking about it. Says the Gemara, but you're right. Al pi pashtus, that's the sin, but we don't need that to tell us that he's chayv a kabel over here, because we learned it out from Rabbi. Rabbi learned it out from a Gzeira Shava. So if you can't use the Tumas Kodesh to tell you a chidush din and Tumas Kodesh that you're chayv a kabel over here, because Tumas Kodesh, we already know from the Gzeira Shava that Rabbi made, from this that it says Behemoth Tmei by the Behemoth Tmei that it says by Kodesh, so we made the Gzeira Shava, so you don't need that. Here, this extra Kodesh to teach us this day. The Nafkele Mid Rebbe, we learn out from the Gzeira Shava that Rebbe brought. Now you learn the Tumas Mikdash. So then there's a halacha, if you can, there's a klal. If it's extra for this Inyan, you can use it for a different Inyan. For which Inyan are you going to use it for Mikdash? That he was Tamei, and he went into the base of Mikdash to tell you that he's going to be Chayv HaKam Ma'il V'Yodel. In fact, the money really behind me, but you're saying this is extra? It's not true. The third Kaddish is not extra. We need this third Kaddish for a din of Rabbi Avo. Rabbi Avo, Shalosh Kisses B'Shlam Lama. Rabbi Avo said, what do I need 3 times Kisses by Yishlami? Achas L'Kol, Achas L'Prat. Like we said before, and Klal L'Prat. Kol Dav Shahi B'Klal V'Yotz Min HaKol Lo Lamed Al Atzmei Lamed Al Klal Kol Yotz. He's coming to tell you anything similar to Kaddish you're going to be Chayiv. But Achas L'Dvarim Shein Nachalam. But the third Kaddish is coming to teach you a Chiddush. That he's come to teach you is something that's not Royal Achila. Like the Atzeh HaMaracha. If somebody decided that he's going to suck out the from the holes that sap the meat, so some people will bite into the meat like somebody bites in the bone to get the juice out. So he'll bite the wood, or he'll bite this levena or the potatoes. Huh? He says it's considered as achila, and you're going to be chayiv kares if it's b'mezid, and a cup might be added if you did a b'shayig. That's the chiddush. Because it's kodesh, and it's considered as achila. You can say that. So the Gemara, Hashim liyama devarim sheinu nechal ani chayam maleihem kares mishum achilas betuma. According to Hashim, he says that's not achila. Einer bites iron and holds. Somebody bites into wood, or he bites into the potatoes. That's achila. He says no, you're not chayiv on that. So he says, but he says I still need the third kares. It's not extra. Le'suyei chatas hapnimis. He's coming to include that chatas hapnimis is you remember there's the soir that was goyel laHashem. They sprayed the dafka on the mizbeach hapnimi or by the pareiches. So I would have said the salkadat chamina. I would have said by the chatas pnimis. Hayu v'yamin Hashim kol korban sheina karu al mizbeach hachitzin kishlamim ein chayam al mishum pigol. Just like Rab Shimon said, when it comes to a korban that's not sacrificed on the outside mizbeach, like here we're talking about the soya pnimi, then there's no din of pigul. Pigul means that in the time when you're being marked the korban, you have in mind to eat it more than the Torah allows you to eat. So the din the korban becomes possible. But that Rabbi Shimon says only applies to any korban that's brought on the mizbeach hachitzai. But any korban that was brought on the mizbeach hazav, the mizbeach hapnimi, no. And the blood wasn't sprayed, or was only sprayed on the mizbeach hapnimi. There's no din pigul. Says the Gemara, yes, he has to be makil. So I'll say al derech is mishum tumah nami loy. Also because of tumah, somebody who eats when it comes to the chatas hapnimis, the one they serve, which is goyel laHashem, somebody who eats that, I would say he shouldn't be chayiv if he did a b'shaygig. Because it has this, just like Rab Shimon learned the same limud when it came to dim pigul. He was mechalik between a korban that's sacrificed on the mizbeach hachitzin to a korban that's sacrificed on the mizbeach hapnimi. Al derech zeh, I'll say the same thing b'negeya to somebody who eats betuma. Kamash malon mechayiv comes to teach us that he's going to be chayiv. The third case is come to teach us, but when it comes to eating betuma, he's going to be chayiv. So you don't have a raya from here, because it's not extra. You wanted to use the extra word kares to teach us that somebody who enters the Beis Hamikdash while he's tamei. But no, it wasn't extra for that. We needed it for Sorah Pnimi, who somebody eats from the Sorah Pnimi. He has to bring a Kabbalah Yared. Says only the Bnei Hador said Mishmei de Rava. In the name of Rava, from here we learn it out. Shalish Tumeis Mishlalmim Lama. In those 3 psukim that I brought you before, that it says kares by each pasuk, it says tuma by each pasuk. So what do you need 3 times saying the tuma, three times tuma? It says achas leklal. One is for the klal, the achas leprat, and one is for the prat. like we said before, that klal uprat. Why did he? The lama yatzim in klal. Why did he single out shlamim from the klal? So to tell you that everything that's similar to the shlamim, but tuma ksub stam. But the third tuma, which is written stam, I don't know for what reason. I'll say tumas kodesh, that I would say bepashtus. We're talking about that he was tamei and he ate kachim. He says no, that I don't need. That's not a chiddush to tell me that somebody who's tamei and eats kodesh is chayiv akar me'il v'yeded. Why? Because we already learned it from the Gzeira Shava of Rabbi. Since it's not telling us a chiddush in somebody who's telling me that eats kodesh, they're not galei the Rabbi, because we learn out from the Gzeira Shava with Rabbi, from the Gzeira Shava that Rabbi brought. Then we'll apply it to a case where he was tummy and he entered in the base of Mikdash. Says Yemara Tuma. I need that extra word Tuma also. It's not extra to tell me for somebody who's tummy and enters into the base of Mikdash. I need it for something else. I did the Bayla Michtav Koris. Since you had to write Koris by each case, you had to write Tumis also. The loy sagil. The loy. Why like Abavo? So like Rabbi Abo said that the loy sagil hachi. That's not going to be enough to write, to leave out the word tumah, because you cannot write in the Torah a punishment like the punishment of kares without writing the siba. Why? So you can't leave out the word tumah. So tumah is not extra. That's why you had to write the lashon tumah to tell you that he's going to be chayiv.
So we still don't know Mikdash.
We still don't know Mikdash. Elo Amar Rava. Rather, Rava says we learn it out from the totally different Gzeira Shava. Asya, from Asay, from a whole total different Gzeira Shava. Ksiv hacha here by Krab Ma'il of Yedid says L'chayil tum Asay. It says the word L'chayil tum Asay. Where is it written? By the Karma of Eilu V'Yedid. Uksiv Hasam, by the Pasha of Paraduma, it says a Tomei mace that entered into the Beis HaMikdash. It says that before he entered into the Beis HaMikdash, he saw a mace on his way and he touched the mace. And now jetzt kommt rein and he's going into the Beis HaMikdash. He became Tomei, and now he's entering the Beis HaMikdash. Mace shenichs measure. Kolan gave a mace. V'lo yitzchat v'lo yitahe be'epa ha'para, and he's not going to even tie himself with the Eifa of the Parah Aduma, as Mishkan Hashem Timei. It says that he was Metam the Beis HaMikdash. And it says, Tomei Yiyeh, he should be Tomei, Oy Tumasei Bay. You see, it says the word Tumasei Bay by somebody who was Tomei, and the case was that he entered into the Beis HaMikdash. Mala Halam, just like the Tumasei Bay in this last pasuk is talking about a case where he was Tomei and he entered the Beis HaMikdash. Afkan, when we're talking about the carbon of Eilu V'Yedid, we're talking about the same case, but Tumas Mikdash, that he was the reason why he's bringing a carbon of Eilu V'Yedid, because he was Tamei and entered into the Beis HaMikdash. It's fact that you matter now, if we have a direct limud, we're saying it's mamish a direct limud to Masay from the case of a Tamei who entered the Beis HaMikdash, and we're looking to say the shove from there. Says you said you needed ba, that we shouldn't think he's referring to a case where he was tummy and ate truma. If we're learning out from this Gzeira Shava, there's no way I would even have a salkadaita that we're talking about somebody who's tummy and ate truma, because the case of Tumas Bay is a befedisha case. The pasuk says the case was that he was Tamei and he entered the Beis HaMikdash. And he went in. So why did the pasuk? Why did we entertain ba that has to exclude Tumah? We wouldn't have been even such a salkadaitach. And the Gemara only ba ledabe is nivlas to iftar. Ba has come to include a case that he's going to be chayv akamayel that if he swallowed a oif that was not yishachten, it was killed on the vela, and he swallowed it. Didn't touch it. He swallowed it. So he's going to be chayiv akamayel even though he doesn't touch it. Oh, so that's what he's saying. Therefore, he's going to be chayiv. That's what he's being merabah. He's coming to include. That's ba is coming to include. You said before ba is an exclusion. How you say Ba is coming to include another case in Kabbalah Eilu V'Yoyed? It's supposed to exclude from Kabbalah Eilu V'Yoyed. Meaning it's an extra miyut. Ba is a second miyut. And when you have two miyutim, ein miyut, acha miyut, el lerabis, only comes to include. So he says, how is it extra? Because it's ksiv, it says in the beginning of that pasuk, oy ki yiga betumas adam. So the word ki yiga is excluding only bar negia, only somebody who touches the tamei betumas maga. That's how it'll become tamei. Only him has the din of oil of a yoyed. Okay, if he entered the base of Mikdash touching something that's tamei. Oba de la bar negia, but something that he wasn't a tamei through negia, rather was a nevelas oiv that went down his gulf. Loy. So I'm not going to say he has the chiyuv of oil of a yoyed if he did a b'shoigig. But then it says uksiba nachamo miyuta nachamiyut. So what do you have to say a second miyut? Have a miyut aha miyut. Ein miyut aha miyut el rabbis, and therefore we learn out from Ba to include a tuma to eating a nevela of Torah that he'll have to bring a cup of yoyed, even though he didn't touch it.
That's the third tumah. He says it's after for another tahar.
That's what Ba is coming to include. Nothing to do with excluding a tummy that ate truma. No, that we know that we would never had such havamina. So Gemara yesh ba yedi b'tchila ve'ein ba yedi b'sof. He had an awareness in the beginning, but he did not have an awareness at the end, right? Meaning he had an awareness that he was tummy. Then he forgot he was tamei and never became aware again. So we said the Sor Shal Yom HaKippurim. Huh? No. Oh, you're going to that shot. No, but he had a Yedid Tchila. No, that's talking about that he didn't have a Yedid Tchila. Says, how is it not right to have a Yedid Tchila? Here he had a Yedid Tchila, but there was no Yedid Sof. So what do we say when somebody didn't have a Yedid B'Sof? Which carbon will forgive him from Yisudin? The Surah HaNas B'Fnim and the Yom HaKippurim. Because he'll never become aware that he's sinned. Because he never had a Yedid. But to protect him from Yisudim, says the Mishnah, that the Soyer, the first Soyer, which is B'Fnim, the Soyer which was going to Hashem, together with Yom Kippur, will protect him. But the moment he finds out about it, then he has to bring Taka Kam Ma'ila V'Yeda. So the Gemara Tana Abanim. The Abanim learned from the Brayis when they gave to the Soyer Shal Yom HaKippurim that was Nasa B'Fnim. It was done through the Kohen Gadol. It says V'chipa al HaKodesh mitumais b'nei Yisrael. It forgives on all tumais. The Kohen Gadol who brought this first Soyer, which was good to Hashem, forgives on all the tumais and all the shoyim. Mezidika sins also. Yes, libin yazel lahavi. So l'chayda I should include shalish tumes and all those cases that are called tumes. There's these and the severe tumes. Which are the severe tumes? Tumes havidazara, the tumes gili harayis, the tumes shuchas damim. Maybe this, when it says that the Kohen Gadol, when he brings the Gadol Hashem, is mechaper. Tumes b'yisol, it's mechaper all those sins which are associated with Tumah. Like Avodah Zarah, it forgives for Gilui Haroyes, for Shvichas Damim. Where do we see that each one has the word Tumah? Avodah Zarah, Huem Elaman, Timei es Mikdashi. Avodah Zarah, it says the Lashon Tamei. V'chein Gilui Haroyes, Huem Ushmat Mes Mishmat Levilti Hasoyes Mechuk Sat Hebes V'gem Eloi Sitamu Bahem. So you see by Gilui Haroyes the Lashon Tumah. So you see all these three grave sins, the Averes, you say we should say that the Soyer Hapnim, the Hanas Befnim, through the Kohen Gadol should be Mechaper. I would have thought Al Sholish Tumas Halali Hey Soyer Mechaper. I would have thought on these three big sins. The Soyer that was done b'fnim through the Kohen Gadol's mechaper, Talmud Leima, mi tumeis b'nei Yisrael. Mi tumeis means that only a chelik of the tumeis from of the tumes, nicht alle tumes,
Nicht alle
me, nicht alle, me of the tumes that there are.
So which one?
Which one? So he says, "Veloy kol tumes." It doesn't refer to all tumes. So he says, since he didn't say, so let's learn it with a binyan of. Ma matzino shechilik hakos miklal kol tumes. So he says that we learn with a binyan of that just like Tuma we find by Tuma that the Pasik separated it from all Tumas. Which one was the one that the Pasik separated one Tuma from all the Tumas? Mikdash v'Kadashim. Those were separated from the other Tumas. The meaning, if somebody is Tamei and he entered the Beis Hamikdash, or somebody who was Tamei and ate Kachim, those that category of tumah, it was separated in the Torah from all the other tumas. Avkan, so too here when it comes to the kab ma'ilaviyedit, betumas mikdash v'kadashov, when it says that, I'm sorry, the carbon that which was nasa b'fnim ha'yidei ha'kain gadol is forgiving only on tumas mikdash v'kadashov. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, those are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Shimon says you don't have to learn with a mamatzina from another place that he was mechalik between the Tumah Mikdash V'Kadashah and the other Tumas. He says you can learn out from the Pasik in the Pasha where it talks about bringing the Sarah Pnimi. What does it say? It says over there, it says he should forgive Al HaKodesh of the Tumas, Mitumay Shal Kodesh. It says B'Feidish, only of the Tumas, what will the Sarah Pnimi forgive for? Only Tumas Kodesh. Kodesh means that either he was Tamei and he entered the Beis HaMikdash, or either he was Tamei and he ate Kachim. And this cannot be the Sada because he specifies after the word Tumas, he says Kodesh, V'chipa ala Kodesh, mi Tumas. It says Kodesh. Yachal, I would have thought, I'll call Tumas Shabbat Kodesh, Yehi Soiz HaMechapa. I would have thought on every Tumah, Ba Kodesh Soiz Mechapa, Tamalim Pesheim Nechol Chatoisam. So the Torah compares the chet of a shoygeg to the mezid, to teach us chatoyim that this soyer will be forgiving dumya the pshoyim, similar to pshoy. It has to be these sins that he did b'shoygeg that the soyer apnim will forgive has to be similar in a way to the mezid if he did it b'mezid, meaning ma pshoyim in which way. Just like by the sins that he did, the Mezid, She'enam B'nei Karbon, it has to be such a... Right, she is Mezid, yeah, Mezid, he did it intentionally. On the Aveda that he did intentionally, Enam B'nei Karbon, meaning they are not forgiven through a carbon, right?
What do you have to give his carbon?
So, what?
What does he get?
Whatever the punishment is, yes. So he says a carbon will not help. So Avchatoyim, so too when he did B'Shoigeg, that when we say the Sarah Pnim is forgiving, is only on She'enam B'nei Karbon, is only on such a Shoigeg that cannot bring a carbon. What's a case that he cannot bring a carbon? If he had a Yediyah B'Tchila, and then B'Nelam, and then there was no Yediyah. So if there was only there was betchila. Oh, I'm sorry. He had a yedi betchila. He had a yedi besaf, and in time there was a halem. So there, the only carbon he brings is a carbon that and he's not. 1 second. That case, there is a carbon. If there was yedi betchila besaf, there is a carbon. There's the carbon. Which carbon does the Sarah Apnimi forgive for? For a sin where he cannot bring a carbon if he did a b'shegeg. If he had a yediyah b'tchila, and then he forgot, and there was no yediyah b'sof, so there's no way of bringing a carbon. So that's where the Soya Pnimi is going to forgive. Similar to a case that if he did a b'mezid, where a carbon will not help. How do we know that somebody who didn't have a yediyah b'sof, that this soy is going to protect him from Yisudim till he becomes aware, and then he brings a cup of Ma'ilaviyah. Because it has to be such a carbon. When it says L'chol Chatoisam, it means to every chatos that he's able, he is right that it's fit that he might be able to have to bring, that he could bring it. Meaning, if he gets an awareness at the end, if he has a Yedi Basaf, not right away, even later on, so he became Zari Lakarbin. So for such a case, the Kabbalah Yodid helps.
So the soy helps.
The Soy helps. I'm sorry. For such a case, the Soy Apnimi helps from Yisur. Amar, the Tana learned in the Braisa. Yeshli be'inyan zel lahavi. I would have thought to include with the kapara of the Soy Apnimi shalish tumis. The 3 tumis. You remember we started off that the Soy Apnimi should forgive anything that has all those that are connected with Tumah. Tumas Avodah Zarah, Tumas Gilui Arayah, Tumas Shuras Dami. What are you talking about? How would you have thought that the Sarapnim would forgive Avodah Zarah? Let's see. If he did a b'mezid Avodah Zarah, Bakatala is Chaimisa. Bakatalu. So there's no kapara with the Sarapnimi. And if he did a b'shegeg, Bar Karbanu, he has to bring a carbon chatas if it's b'shegeg. So what is it? Why is they? What is he? Where's the Sarapnimi come in here? That it's forgiving. Why would you have thought it's going to forgive on such a sin? If it's b'mezid, it's chaymisa. If it's b'shegeg, it's chayvachatas. Where does come come in? And think about a b'mezid, v'lo yasabei. It's talking about he did a b'mezid and he wasn't warned, so you can't give him misa, and he can't bring a carbon. They didn't warn him before. You have to warn him before, so he's not going to be chayiv. He's not going to be chayiv misa, and he cannot bring a carbon. For them, the Sarapnim is going to forgive. Or b'shayek, v'lo yisyadalei. He did it b'shayek, and he never became aware of it. So if b'shayek, he would be chayv achatas, but he didn't know about it. So the Sarapnim will protect him. That's what we thought. Then he's come to tell you not. Gilui haroyes nami. Why would I have thought by Gilui haroyes that it should that the Sarapnim should forgive? Hey chidami, what is the case talking about? If he did Gilui haroyes b'mezid, bakatalo is chaymisa. If he's b'shayek b'karbanu, he has to bring a carbon chatas. So where do you come off thinking that the Sarapnimu should protect him? And b'mezid v'lo yasabei. It's talking about that he did the b'mezid, but they didn't warn him before he did the Gilui haroyes. So he cannot be chayv misa.
If you don't give that story,
He's not chayv misa, and he can't bring a carbon.
Even though he doesn't base it.
Yeah. And so then the Sarapnim will forgive him with the day of Yom Kippur. Or b'shoigeg v'lo yisyadalei. Or he did a b'shoigeg, and he didn't never became aware of it. So that's where I would have thought that it should forgive. But since it says me tumeis, it doesn't include it. It only tumeis mikdash v'kadasho. Shvichas dam, the same story. Shvichas dam, in fact, Nami, why would I have thought?
Somebody kills somebody.
If somebody killed somebody, why would I have thought the Sarapnim should forgive him? Hey chidami, how's the case talking about? B'mezid, if he killed him, b'mezid, bakatolo, he's chayim misa. So what are you saying, that the Sarapnim will protect him? If he killed somebody b'shegeg b'golosu, he has to go to Golus. Where you on a miklat? What's stopping the Sarapnim? He can't protect him. And think about it, it's talking about b'mezid. He killed somebody b'mezid of v'lo yasabei. They didn't warn him, so I would have thought the Sarapnim should forgive him. Inami or b'hanach delabnei Golus nino. I would have thought it was the case. You remember we learned in Makis, the only time you're going to be chayiv Golus if it was b'derech yerida he killed him. But what's if you were picking up the hatch and this way and he killed somebody? So then it's ainas. Then he's not even chayiv Golus. So I would have thought the Sarapnimi should forgive. That's why it says mitumis to tell you only tumis mikdash v'kadashav. Sarapnimi will help for protection, not for Gilui haroyes v'chazdam and avodah zarah. Stop.